Ora vi do alcuni importanti consigli per...
Now I would like to share some important suggestions on the use of the Leo II with the new DSLR Canon. It is very important that as soon as the camera is turned on, to decide on which information is to be seen on the camera display in photo mode. This particular operation is carried out before connecting the camera to the command control unit, and then is repeated also in the video feature. Each time, however, this selection has been made, it will remain in the memory and will be prompted also in the following power-ups. It is very important to view the info on times and diaphragms if using the camera on manual mode, whether for photo or video. At your desire, it is possible to begin with a completely clean display, or otherwise by choosing to view essential information, times, diaphragm, aperture, and the photo exposure meter. We would normally advise the use of full screen, since you will also have available the information of the white balance and the autofocus mode, especially for the quick feature, which is very important in video mode use, in as far as how much faster it allows us to bring the camera into focus, above all when underwater. Once viewing methods are set for both photo and video, we will be able to put the camera back onto video mode and go to set the viewing time for the last photo taken. While some operators will set times which may vary anywhere from between 3, 5 and 10 seconds, we ordinarily suggest setting up the hold operation on your camera, as in this way it will be you deciding on whether to view the last picture shot over the entire immersion, show to friends, and then being able also to take off the display simply by pressing the autofocus button. If using a Canon that is not latest generation, as the Canon 10D or the 20D version for example, it will be necessary to set the PC mode in the USB settings from the camera menu, a process that becomes necessary so as to habilitate the communication between the Leo control unit and camera. This operation is no longer necessary in the latest generation Canon cameras, in that identification and communication with the control unit takes place automatically. Now we are going to move on to the description of the various commands that you will have available on the Leo II gear. After having connected the camera as outlined in the previous tutorial and having inserted it and switched on, we will go and turn on the command control unit, ensuring then that after it has completed the scrolling on the command unit and keypad's indicator lights, there is then a correct communication line. This can be verified pressing any button and confirming that a red light shows from the dial pad, now in confirmation to the correct command transmission to the camera. On the right-hand keypad we have available a series of commands, varying based on the means in which we are using the camera. In the manual mode, you can manually regulate for a more open and closed shutter control and longer and shorter exposure periods. Pressing buttons 3 and 5 together simultaneously, we will have control of the ISOs, whereas meanwhile the purpose of buttons 1 and 2 are for shutter commands. One highly important aspect for who takes photographs underwater is to be able to have full availability of the commands without taking your eyes off the display, and so being able to recognize access through touch is a remarkable assistance. Accordingly, we have the two lower buttons dedicated to exposure times. In the middle, the two buttons serve for diaphragm and the two buttons at the top for the shutter. One thing I would like to explain in depth for you now is regarding the click button. Our snapshot command on the keypad replicates the actual mechanical commands of the camera, with the difference that this has a midway point that acts on light meter and autofocus, and the total process brings the shutter into action. Although our command control unit takes this into account and merges the two commands, this means that pressing for the shutter release on the Leo keypad in the standard mode option, beforehand the camera will execute autofocus and the exposure, then after triggering the shutter, just as we would have with the shutter release button on the camera, afterwards at the end of that course. In this case, it's clear that shooting time depends on the camera's time for coming into focus. If we use a macro 100mm lens, the focusing time will be longer, but to the exact same degree that it would be with a mechanical button. This is as the command on the keypad replicates the exact same motion as the Canon, being bypassed by the remotely controlled shutter jack, and is not controlled by the central control unit, USB. Therefore, the time necessary for the camera to release the shutter is identical in both using the mechanical operation and in using the keypad button, and will depend only on the speed of the lens in focus. Button 2 serves the purpose for the reading of the light meter. Once times and diaphragms are set, we will continue and press button 2 to verify the correct camera configuration. This button replicates the process's midway point of the shutter release button. Another command that we implemented during these years is a change in shooting mode. We have seen the function of buttons 1 and 2 in the standard mode. However, if we continue to keep these pressed for 10 seconds, we can notice a red light lit up on button 2. And once elapsed the same amount of time again, the red light will turn off. This means that we have passed to shutter release mode. This modality is commodious if for panoramic and ambience photos, with wide-angle lenses such as the 10 or 17 or Tokina 10mm fixed focal length. As if when you take shots of sharks, for example, we will be able to hold the shutter release button down, and only when the shark is seen opening its mouth to feed, releasing the button and taking the shot, having the certainty of bringing into focus that crucial instant, for capturing the special moment. In this way we cannot go wrong. When we press the button, we will have autofocus, and then, on releasing the button again, we trigger the shutter release. Keeping with the photo keypad, I will show another very important command, which, however, is not found on all the Canon cameras. Currently, it is only available for latest generation cameras, such as the 5D Mark III and the 70D. Contemporarily pressing buttons 4 and 6 means that we can switch from manual mode in a very quick time with diaphragm priority, and even return to C1, C2 and C3, all of this under the water. On the left keypad, pressing on the buttons 9 and 11 together, we will change over to the modality of autofocus al servo and al focus, while with the combination of 10 and 12, we will go to modify the autofocal area. Another point I must mention is that by simply inverting the keypad connections from the control unit, we can invert the different keypad functions with each other, so that the functions we normally have on the right hand side can now work on the left hand side too, and vice versa. For a more complete and detailed list of commands and combination sequences for each single camera, we suggest that you visit our internet site, where you can find a list of PDF formats, which you can browse through freely to select and consult the PDF document relative to your camera. Each client upon request may ask for a personalized keypad, always checking the commands which can be controlled individually for each camera by assigning to each individual button the command that you want.